I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you.
And welcome into Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me today on Wednesday, which is kind of the first show of the week, guys. So Tuesday was me and Chris. Monday, there was no show. So I logged on the internet Monday evening to check your comments, get some comments for the following show. And I realized Monday's video did not release at 7 a.m. as it was supposed to. Instead, it was scheduled to release on Tuesday. And there were already some things that were out of date. So I had to just trash the show, threw it out. And then me and Chris had a conversation for you yesterday. But yeah, another operator error. I apologize for no show Wednesday. I need a producer. We got some of your comments to get today. I got a sweet new bag from one of my favorite Juckeyes I got to show you. In a sign of the times, Oregon loses a monster battle for the second time this week. You're not going to believe to who. And no less than 7 Ohio State targets will be making their announcements within the next week. We've also got some very angry Buckeyes before they've heard any of those announcements based on information that's been coming out. A lot of Ohio State prospects who are the top tier guys all apparently have much bigger deals to go elsewhere. And the further we get into this era of college football and the more professionalized it gets, the more normalized it gets to just take the biggest bag. Recruitments are now kind of like contract negotiations, and it feels like for a lot of guys, that's it. That's all it is. The stigma that used to come along with just taking the biggest offer is wearing off. People are calling Ohio State cheap. Why won't they pony up? This class going to finish outside the top 5. I'm going to show you Ohio State's not being cheap, and this isn't a principled stance either. I've got a little financial breakdown that I want to show you so everybody can get an actual idea of what they're working with versus the deals we're hearing being offered to some of these guys. Additionally, a quick clarification of the rules that they're operating under. So when we compare all of that, I think you're going to see my point here, that they're not, in fact, being cheap. But we got to go through all that. The latest buzz on some of those recruits, including when some of those announcements are. We'll get to that first one right now. That's going to be tonight. So tonight, Aaron Thomas, big tackle from Arizona, played just 1 year on the offensive line. Really good looking prospect, 6'7", just a monster, really strong kid. Mom's side of the family from Cleveland. Ryan Day gave him a Buckeye to give to his grandma. Big Buckeye fans. So he told me 6 o'clock he's going live on Instagram, which is 9 o'clock our time, which means we'll probably come on tonight then about 8:30, 8:45, and carry that through Aaron Thomas's announcement. So that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully we get some good news. If we're being honest, the most recent news hasn't been great. One of the best recruiting guys in Arizona has said that he thinks it's Texas A&M. It felt like Ohio State by the time he left Ohio State. Did he go down to Texas A&M and get a sweetheart deal that he couldn't turn down? I don't know, but we're going to watch it live. I got my ears waxed, guys. I got my ears waxed. My beautiful little Italian wife. There are some advantages to being an Italian woman. One of the disadvantages, they got to wax their upper lip. Something they got to do. My mom's got to do it. My wife's got to do it. But I was in the bathroom when she was doing it, and apparently I've got an ear situation. It's an Italian man thing. I'm getting old enough. I got an ear situation. She waxed my ears. It felt pretty good. We've got nice, clean ears now, so you can't say anything about that, but you might tease me about the glasses. All right, let's get in. You know what? Let's do this first. Let's like today's show. If you are a newer viewer, this is going to be your 4th to 7th favorite college football show. That's in the bag. It happens every time. Why don't you just make it official and subscribe? It just helps you find the show. And we're going to be doing some more live shows here soon. So we'll talk about that at the end. All right, let's get to our Juckeyes recruiting news. And we had the final official visit weekend, and that makes all 4 complete now. All the guys have been through. Let's start with the good news, and that is quarterback Luke Fahey, who came in. Of course, he did get his offer. I talked to Luke. He loves Billy Fessler. Decision coming real soon. And then it dropped on Monday that Ohio State's top competition in this race for Luke Fahey, Indiana, took a commitment from a quarterback, which tells us everything we need to know. Luke Fahey, going to be the quarterback in this class. Now, my initial thought with the situation the Buckeyes were in with Tavian St. Clair, Brady Edmonds, slotting this guy in between them was, how about you get a guy with one really elite trait, either a ridiculous arm, and maybe he struggled with accuracy, or maybe he was super mobile and struggled a little bit with his arm, and try to bring up that weakness over time. And maybe if you can, you might hit on something really great. The alternative to that, in the way Ohio State's going to go, is a top 25 quarterback in the country that is very competent, great intangibles, great head on his shoulder. He has good mobility. He has good arm talent, maybe a little overlooked because of his size, a little on the shorter side, but he's strong. He's a well-built kid. And Luke Fahey, kind of the perfect guy. I really think that this guy reminds me a lot of, I keep saying Dylan Gabriel, but I don't mean to say like Dylan Gabriel's a record-setting quarterback. I just mean like when I think of Dylan Gabriel, I think of a guy who's just constantly moving, is distributing the ball like a point guard. And that's what Fahey reminds me of. So it seems like a really safe bet. I think it just feels safe. I like it. I think he's also an awesome kid too. He obviously fits everything Ohio State's looking for in a Buckeye. And Ohio State, one of his dream schools, one of two, Oregon, Ohio State. So it feels really good. So that should be coming pretty soon. That's good news, number one. Other pieces of good news, you had all the wide receivers in town over the weekend, except for Jaden Ricketts, which means Chris Henry Jr., Caden Dixon-Wyatt, Brock Boyd out of Texas. We're all there, along with Jarquez Guilford. The number one player in Indiana, somehow a 3-star. He was just at camp last week. His tape is phenomenal. We watched it here the other day. Does not make any sense why he's ranked what he's ranked, but Brian Hartline obviously doesn't care about that. He sees obvious big potential in him, and Ohio State obviously wants him in this class. That would be wide receiver number 5. Ole Miss, Ohio State seem to be the two heading down the stretch here, and he's going to make his announcement on Friday, which of course we will go live for. I really like this guy. The thought of 5 wide receivers is a little strange when we're talking about a class that's not going to finish off being a very big class. It'll be smaller than last year's class. There has been some talk that maybe Jaden Ricketts does not end up in this class. Not so sure if that's just rumor, if that's coming from somewhere, I don't know, serious, but we'll find out. At any rate, love Guilford. And if we're ranking these guys in, potential, Guilford is not the guy at the bottom. That's for sure. So the Buckeyes, potentially with 5 wide receivers, moving on to offensive line, where there are currently 3 commits in Max Riley, Sam Greer. Boy, Sam looks great, guys. Max Riley, Sam Greer, and Tucker Smith. In town over the weekend were J.B. Shabazz. J.B. Shabazz, huge tackle from North Carolina, who I said does not like football. He's a developmental guy, but I was looking at his sophomore film. I since watched his junior film, apologized to him. His junior film, much better, shows a kid who really wants to mash, right? He wants to mash. And I was a little down on him before then. But if you want a developmental prospect that is 6'7", you're going to pay, man. You're going to pay like never before, because even developmental guys that are that size human are rare and they cost big bucks. And we could say the same for Duron Parks. Duron Parks from Hurricane, West Virginia, moved down to Florida. Always wanted to be Buckeye. And he comes in for his official. He's commanding big bucks too. Ohio State could have either one of these guys in the class, I think, if they wanted to come up to where they want the money. But it's just like, it makes me so furious. I want to pull my hair out, because in the state of Ohio this year, we're sitting here talking about developmental guys and wanting big bucks. You had in the state of Ohio the high-level talent and guys like Sam Greer, Max Riley, Adam Guthrie. Then you had guys like Will Conroy, who was committed to Oklahoma, has since now flipped to North Carolina. I talked to Will last week. Man, the kid is awesome. Always wanted to be a Buckeye, wanted it bad. Now he's going to play at North Carolina. Was it Oklahoma? You had Landry Breedy up at Mentor. Ben Congdon, he's going to Miami. Pete Aglaitis, Like, you had lots of developmental guys in Ohio, and instead you're going swinging for these other developmental guys. And then it comes down to the end. Oh, they want paid. I promise that there are a couple of those Ohio kids who would have been happy to come in at budget rate to play for Ohio State, where they always wanted to be. I'm positive of it. And it looks like maybe we'll see that get course corrected next year. Let's hope. We did see Tyler Bowen go bananas with the offers this past week for 2027. And it is clear that he is bound and determined to make this work, loading up and casting a wide net. We thought that maybe we'd have 6 offensive linemen in this class, and it certainly doesn't look like that at this point. But you never know. You still got some guys out there that have yet to make their decision. It just doesn't seem like the guys that Ohio State is willing to pay for, they're going to reach anywhere near the number that other people are paying for them. And that seems to be the determining factor for most of these guys. All right, now let's get to the defensive linemen, and where do we stand with the most important position in this class? Here's the facts. Number 1, you got KHARY Wilder, a versatile player. We'll call him an edge for now. If you are someone who watches this show often, you will know that despite this guy being ranked the number 250 overall prospect, I think it's ridiculous. I think he's a very high-level player, and I think the Buckeyes stole one who was misevaluated by the services, and because of that, misevaluated by the West Coast powers, being Oregon and USC. USC offered him, but didn't really pursue him. And I'm not just saying that today because I think the class might be, not looking great anymore. I've been saying this since before Ohio State got a commitment from him. The day they offered him, I went bananas about this kid. I think he is so underrated. He's
Last year, at about this time, when you were missing some guys and kind of dropping down the board, the Buckeyes fell upon Jarquez Carter. And when I watched Jarquez Carter's film, my immediate reaction was, oh my gosh, they missed one. They missed one. And by they, I mean the people doing the rankings, they missed one because he looked like a baby Warren Sapp. And I'm telling you right now, watch KHARY Wilder. This kid is legit. And to me, he has just jumped ahead of a whole lot of these guys that are rated way higher than him on my board. As far as the dudes that are coming in for official visits, this dude is the real deal. He's absolutely for real. I would love to get this guy. In fact, if you told me right now, based on Ohio State's board, when we look at all the studs on that board, there's a whole lot of guys on here that I would trade for this kid, like straight up. This isn't one of those situations where you're missing and dropping down the board. I don't know why you only got Washington and UCLA in on this dude. Not just that, 3.6 GPA. I'm trying to sit here and figure out, like, okay, what am I missing here? Is it grades? No, 3.6 GPA. Listen to an interview. Very mild-mannered, nice-spoken kid. All right, man. Yeah, they just missed. They missed, but the Buckeyes are in on them, and I am pumped for this one.
Underrated. He's awesome. I said the same thing about Jarquez Carter last year. These are budget monsters, big scores for the Buckeyes, and budget monsters are more important than ever. Now, KHARY Wilder was at the Rivals camp this week, along with SAM GREER, Deuce Geralds, Felix Ojo, a bunch of guys that the Buckeyes are in on at this Rivals camp. Take a look at KHARY Wilder on this rep right here. Look at him smash that tackle. Do you know who that tackle is? That's Felix Ojo, the number 1 tackle in the country. So KHARY Wilder getting nasty on Felix Ojo. Now, take a look at SAM GREER versus KHARY Wilder. Buckeye on Buckeye. Now, you tell me how that is the number 1 tackle in the country in the first video, 5-star Felix Ojo, and SAM GREER is barely cracking the top 100. SAM GREER has just as much of an opportunity to be a first-round left tackle as anybody else in the country in this class, and I stand on that. Additionally, take a look at KJ Ford. KJ Ford was in town for his OV. Take a look at him versus Felix Ojo. Now, he caught Felix Ojo slipping there, but the quickness and the power right there, very impressive from KJ Ford. KJ Ford in town with his teammate Landon Barnes, 2 kids from Duncanville, Texas. And we also had tackles, Deuce Geralds and Damari Simeon, both in town over the weekend. Damari Simeon, another guy making his announcement soon. That will be on Friday. So you've got Damari Simeon, you've got Guilford. We've got plenty of announcements. I'll find out these times. We're definitely going live for at least one of them. And when you got KHARY Wilder, yet to be announced, but certainly seems like Jameer Perez, we'll just go under that assumption that you've got KHARY Wilder at edge, Jameer Perez in the middle. Who else is going to be added to this class? Things are looking really positive for Damari Simeon. Damari Simeon makes his decision on Friday. So let's say Damari Simeon joins the class. And obviously you're waiting on Jameer Perez to announce, but he has decommitted from Florida kind of silently, right? So Jameer Perez and Damari Simeon. Now you got a big 1 tech, you got a sizable 3 tech. Deuce Geralds not going to make his decision till July, sometime in July. Well, Cam Brickle from IMG, he makes his decision on Saturday. Cam Brickle, a guy the Buckeyes really like. What do you do in this situation? Deuce Geralds not going to commit till sometime in July. What if you got Jameer Perez and you got Damari Simeon and Cam Brickle wants to join the class? What do you do in that situation? Because if Cam Brickle joins the class, you now have no room or money in the budget to have Deuce Geralds in the class. Do you turn him away and roll the dice on Deuce? Deuce, smaller than Damari Simeon at 6'1.5", 275. Simeon's about 6'2". There's been some talk that Deuce Geralds is an LJ tackle and not a Matt Patricia tackle. And it's just like, dude, what are we doing here? Are we taking the best football players and designing the defense around the best football players? Or are we just trying to fit guys into a system, even if they're lesser football players? It seems to me, based on everything I've heard from Matt Patricia, he wants the best football players and he will mold the system around them. That's what it seems to me. So not so sure if that's true or not, but Brickle, a 3-star, he's a good player. I think he's better than a 3-star. And I think that he's nowhere near Deuce Geralds. Brickle's also a 1 tech, right? If you got Jameer Perez, do you want another kind of 1 tech? He can be a 3, but he's more a 1 tech. But then you're also really light on 1 tech. So do you want to take 2? You're just in a bit of a conundrum here. I don't know what you're going to do. And we haven't even talked about Emmanuel Ruffin. Emmanuel Ruffin down to LSU and Ohio State. And he will announce July 4th. So Ruffin announces July 4th. Alabama, where he's from, they're not in it anymore. Buckeyes, Tigers, 6'4", 290, top 300 player. And Deuce will announce after him. So you got who I think is the best guy of all of these guys, the guy that you've been recruiting for 3 years. What are you going to do? Now, Ole Miss is after him hard. He says they're recruiting him the hardest. Deuce, I'm talking. He said his best visits were at LSU, Michigan, and Oregon. Ohio State's was good. Is he playing games? I don't know, man. But it has certainly seemed for a very long time that Ohio State was his top school. You've put a ton of man hours into recruiting this guy. I just don't know where this goes, but it's going to be very interesting. Now, on the end, we've got the same situation. Obviously, the number 1 prospect is Carter Meadows. You've got Jackson Ford now making his decision on Saturday, the same day as Cam Brickle. Like I told you, we got a ton of lives to do with these decisions. Jackson Ford down to Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Are you going to let this guy go and keep swinging at Carter Meadows? Or are you going to take him? Or are you going to go hard after KJ Ford and try to get him in the class? Or are you going to hold out on both of them and try to take Carter Meadows and risk losing him at the end? What is coming to be pretty clear is they're not going to take 3. They want 2 on the edge. From everything I'm hearing, that's what's going to happen here. I know a lot of us wanted them to take 3-3. Doesn't appear to be a thing. Not in the cards. So, what if you hold out on Meadows? Ford goes to Michigan. The other Ford goes to Penn State. Who knows? Landon Barnes has not really seemed like a serious candidate here. Could be wrong, but it feels like he's been LSU for quite a while. It's a sticky situation. It's a sticky situation when we're talking about Carter Meadows and Deuce Geralds, because these are two guys who, like Luke Waffle, might get that ridiculous offer at the end, and Ohio State has to pull out again, right? Going to be really interesting watching how this shapes up. I will say, though, I like all these football players. They're all really good football players. I mean, I don't think you really lose out. You do lose out. We want the best of the best, of course, but I'm saying, like, I think they've done a good job narrowing this down. The guys left on the board here, I like them all. KJ Ford, slightly concerning. KJ Ford listed at 6'3.5". Listed at 6'3.5". JJ's listed at 6'3". Powerful for his size. Obviously, we saw what he did to Felix Ojo. But we talked in the beginning of the show about some Buckeye fans being very irritated, and they're mad looking at guys like the Felix Ojos, Tyler Atkinsons, Xavier Griffins, guys we've talked a lot about in this cycle that are the top of the board guys. And you're seemingly going to lose these battles based on NIL. But truth be told, whether or not Ohio State was in the ballpark in NIL, we're kidding ourselves acting like that's the only thing. How often has Ohio State ever pulled the number one player out of Georgia, the number one left tackle in the country out of Texas, the number 2 linebacker in the country who's from Alabama out of Georgia now where he lives? How often has that happened in the history of Ohio State? I've been following recruiting a long time. I don't really recall that happening. So to pretend like this is only about Ohio State being cheap or not ponying up, it feels like they would probably have to go above and beyond already high offers to pull any of these guys out of their home states, right? This is not something that happens often. Now, last week, we talked about the previous 4 classes. And in those previous 4 classes, Ohio State, if they get 3 5-stars in this class, are ahead of the last 4 classes on average. It's not like we've been yanking 7 5-stars in a class. So let's not pretend like this class is some big outlier here. Will it finish outside the top 5? The potential's there. We got to see how it finishes. The potential is there. But once again, I think it has the makings for a very, very good class. And I just want to give you a synopsis of why the people are angry, particularly coming out of this last week of official visitors. And if you're one that's angry, just hear me out. Obviously, we know that these guys are in it for the money now, more and more than ever, and they're making it very clear. Take, for instance, Ryder Lyons. Ryder Lyons and Richie Wesley, by the way. Richie Wesley was the one who committed jumping into the pool with Dan Lanning. He's now 1,000% committed to Texas. Then you've got Ryder Lyons, who was my favorite quarterback in the class of 26. He committed to BYU over Oregon. Now, granted, he's some Mormon, so that has some pull there. But let's be honest, this was clearly a money issue. This is also a kid who came out and said he looks at NIL different, that if schools are offering you more, then that means they value you more. So he's all the way invested on making the most money. Fair enough, his prerogative. But as we come out of these official visits, some of the articles coming out talking about each individual prospect, saying essentially Ohio State was offering less for just about every guy, and that these guys would have to choose whether or not they wanted more money or to come to Ohio State. We've seen offers like out there floating that Carter Meadows is looking for a Luke Waffle type of offer. We've seen that offensive line target Drew Evers is down to Texas A&M, Ohio State, and SMU is a real contender. Now, why in the world would SMU be a real contender? Well, that's obvious. Aaron Thomas, we'll see what he decides tonight, coming out of Texas A&M, where they've been spending a ton of money. 5-star running back Derek Cooper. You came into the official visit with him with Ohio State, Georgia, and Miami as the top 3. I've been high on my favorite back. Yeah, I had Sabian Hyder, Jay Lamar, number 2. Jay Lamar, Georgia is very high on, and he's going to make his announcement, I think, today. And he's going to pick Georgia, which means they're out on Derek Cooper, and then it becomes Ohio State and Miami. And we've heard Miami has offered 3 times the deal that Ohio State has to Derek Cooper. So when we're looking at all these numbers, right, the point is everybody's higher than Ohio State. Braylon Womack, a kid that loves Ohio State since the first time he came to camp. Despite the fact that he's from Mississippi, this might have been one 5 years ago, if Ohio State was recruiting that area, that they could have won, because it just feels like he likes Ohio State and always has more than in the rest of his Final Four: Florida, Texas A&M, and Auburn, even with his sister at Auburn. Certainly the type of player that these programs will be willing to break the bank for. We know it's coming with one of those guys: Florida, Texas A&M, and Auburn. Come on now. And Ohio State already has a top-of-the-budget type guy at safety. Can you afford to have 2 out of 1 room? I'm going to show you the generic budget here in a minute. And you tell me what we should do here, because we're in a new era now yet again. The previous rules that we were operating under for NIL don't apply anymore. Ohio State has been paying less for guys out of high school. They are now paying even less than that less was previously. Because in this new system, with this salary cap, there is less money to work with. So Ohio State operating under the new system right now, the clearinghouse was open, and this was underway 2 days after that settlement was stamped and cleared. And Ohio State was ready to roll with their plan mapped out, with the Buckeye Sports Group in Learfield all in place. And we know that Ohio State will be following these rules to the letter of the law. So the news, while it hasn't been very optimistic about some of these recruits, it's been hard to pull guys like that in every system. It sucks being the lowest offer, and in most cases it appears to be directly based on money, where they're losing guys like a Luke Waffle, etc. Operating under these new rules right now, it seems clear that Ohio State is going against some schools, maybe at least one school in every one of these recruitments, that is not intending to operate under these new rules, or is ignorant of them, or is very ignorant on how to spend a budget. You look at Michigan. Michigan is jumping in the Tennessee waters, trying to make a law so that they don't have to cooperate with these rules. We are still waiting on the enforcement arm to become active. That's the CDC. They're the ones who are supposed to do the investigations, enact the punishments. The rules, not the rules, but the punishments aren't even fully established yet. So they rolled this thing out without the enforcement arm ready to go, which is kind of odd to me. I don't know why you wouldn't wait till the whole thing is complete, but they don't even have all the punishments written. We've gone over some of the punishments that they're talking about. Punishments against coaches, suspensions against coaches, athletic director suspensions, a limit to how many players you can take out of the portal. These are punishments with real teeth. And we can only hope that the people who are violating these rules now, if they're found to be doing that, will be held accountable for violating these rules. But in the meantime, regardless of what any other school is doing and whatever punishments they may or may not get, doesn't help us fill out our roster. Like, none of that matters to us if they get punished down the road. So the Buckeyes are at the mercy of the market right now, plain and simple. And if the market is still operating under the pre-settlement rules, and it is, even if there's just 5 teams operating like that, the market is skewed for everybody that's operating under the new rules. And it seems to me that most schools are, but there are some rogue actors out there. The hands of everybody who are following the rules are tied. You got 14 million, well, 20 million, 22 million, whatever that each school has. Each school is going to designate what they're going to spend on football. For the Buckeyes, 13.5, 14 million, whatever the number is. That's what they are paying for the roster. That's the budget. And Ohio State cannot pay them NIL. There is no scratching a check from a collective anymore. You can't do it. You can't do it for a freshman coming in. You can't do it for a senior to keep him out of the NFL. It must be a deal from a business. That deal will go through the clearinghouse. I'll give you an example of a legal NIL deal right now. This is Chris Henry Jr. This is his new commercial for Adidas.
Dang, that was fast.
Yeah, pretty fast.
Yo, Chris, let me see that, my dog.
Yeah, TK, it's pretty cool.
I'm sure he's making a mint off of this commercial. By the way, that is Tristan Keys with him. He is the number 1 rated wide receiver in the class. He's the one that did this at Tennessee. So committed to LSU, goes up to Tennessee and did that. We watched that video last week. Notice who's the star of the commercial, the Ohio State player. So if we're Ohio State and we're operating under the new rules, when we're talking to one of these freshmen or potential incoming freshmen, we are offering them their financial package and we are giving them a number, and that's their revenue sharing number. That's part of that budget. So we've sat and broken down how we're going to spend all this money, this $14 million. How much are we going to spend on, I don't know, how do we break it down? By position room, by class, by veterans, by how many years they've been in the program? However we're going to do it, they've already sat and mapped it out. And they are giving these guys their number of the cut. And I don't know how there's any wiggle room to that. They're not spending all that money. All that money is getting accounted for. So where do you pull extra money from? You can't. There's a salary cap. You can tell these guys, in addition to that number, let me tell you about the Buckeye Sports Group. And I believe the Buckeye Sports Group is going to be off the hook and make these guys a ton of money. But you're still selling them on a dream here. That's not money in hand. That's not a contract. That is, we think you're going to be able to make a ton of money through this Buckeye Sports Group. Okay, that's great, but USC just offered me $1.3 million cash in my hand and another 1.3 next year. Okay, how? Where's it coming from? How am I supposed to compete with that? You can't. You can't compete with that. Now, Ohio State could have, and I brought this up the other day, potentially, right, in theory, pre-executed a lot of these NIL deals with people like businesses all over Ohio and who wanted to be involved with Ohio State. And the player is just not there yet. So for instance, I want to do a $20,000 deal with a player. Okay, here's the deal you're going to get. You're going to get 5 commercials, 3 social media posts, and it'll be a, top 250 player in the class of 2026. All right, sweet. So now when they sit down, can have stacks of these deals potentially offer to these kids. It's just an open-ended deal. I suspect we'll see that in the future. Maybe there wasn't enough time to get that done so far, but there really is no other way to offer these guys extra money. It's either coming out of that $14 million budget or it's an open-ended deal. There's no other way to guarantee them money. All you can do is sell them on the fact that you will make a ton of NIL money at Ohio State, especially if you're a good player at Ohio State. That's all you can do. You got a structured budget with a cap. Let's look at what this looks like. Now, I broke this down by position. So in each room, you've got a target for how many players are going to be in that room, okay? And based on how many players are in that room, I just broke down that money as to how much you've got in each room. Let's take a look at it. So quarterbacks, here's an even split here. Even split. Obviously, you're going to have to spend more on quarterbacks, but this is just even Steven. Keep in mind, when we spend more on quarterbacks, it's coming from somebody else's room. You generally carry 4 quarterbacks. You've got $600,000 for all 4 of those quarterbacks. Running backs, you got 6 of them. Less than $1 million. Now, let's think back. Savion Heider's deal that's been floated. $600 to $800 grand. That's almost the entire budget that you have, and you've got 5 other running backs to pay. How do you do that? How do you pay Bo Jackson and James Peoples, Turbo Rogers, Isaiah West? How do you pay them if this kid's eating up $600,000 to $800,000? And man, he better be the starter walking in year one. By the way, we got a transfer that just came in, money committed to him. How about the wide receiver room at Ohio State, the single most talented room in the country every year? You've got 10 of them and $1.5 million to work with. Well, we're not on a high dollar wide receiver this year. Like, it's okay. We are, but you know what I mean? Whatever Chris Henry Jr. got, I'm sure they had to make sure that got taken care of before you got on campus, because you've got 1.5 million for 10 dudes. 10 dudes, man. How many NFL guys are in that room right now? How many first round draft picks are in that room? How about next year? What if Carnell stays? Carnell, JJ, Quincy Porter, Mylan Graham, Chris Henry Jr., maybe Caden Dixon-White. You might have 6 first round picks in that room and 1.5 million to go around. Let's go to the offensive line and the defensive line. You've got 18 guys, $2.7 million. Luke Waffle got $1.3 million. If that was coming off of USC's budget, Luke Waffle just took up a half the budget, and there are 17 men left to pay. So let's say Luke Waffle, Ohio State signed him for 1.3. Well, now they've got 1.3 left for Bo Atkinson and Logan George, Kenyatta Jackson, Caden McDonald, Caden Curry, Edric Houston, Zion Grady, Epizatanile, and on we go. And they're all going to split up half when Luke Waffle took the first half? Yeah, like we know that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That kid comes in, what are they going to do? They're going to beat him down, man. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Linebacker. You got TJ Alford, Riley Pettijohn. You got Arvell and Sonny. You got the new freshman coming in. You got $1.2 million. Safety. You got Caleb Downs in there. Fahim Delane you brought in. Look at the cornerback room, man. How much is Devin Sanchez worth? That's what you've got for the cornerback room, 1.2. What do you think Felix Ojo is asking for this year? What do you think somebody's going to pay him? You got $2.7 million. You just brought in Philip Daniels and Ethan Onyanwa. What do we think those guys cost? So this is the money we're working with here. If Ohio State is following these rules, as you can see, they're incredibly hamstrung here. They're not taking some principled stance that we're not going to pay young guys. There isn't the money to match what these other guys are paying these kids. Like, it's just not there. I don't know what you're supposed to do. The only thing we can do is hope that these other people get punished and brought in line quickly, like faster than not fast. Because the longer, some people are saying Ohio State's being cautious again, like they were back in 2022. And I totally disagree. I don't think they're being cautious. I think they're just following the rules. Back then they chose, we're not going to spend any money on these freshmen. And they eventually, okay, we're going to have to spend some money on the freshmen. And it became more and more, and really a lot for some. That was being cautious. This, they know exactly what the rules are because Bjork's been in there from day one on the committee doing this. And they've been working on this the entire time, I'm sure, deciding how they're going to do this. And there are a lot of other problems that come in, like not problems, but really difficult things, right? Like, let's say you got a guy you were planning on going to the NFL, and then all of a sudden he doesn't go to the NFL. Well, now you've got this guy who's making a lot, right? Because you're probably going to stagger this for the older guys are going to get the most money. You want them to stay in the program as long as possible. So you want to give them the biggest carrot the longer they stay. And all of a sudden that money you thought was coming off the books, well, it's staying. What do you do now? Like, so many issues are going to come from this. It's going to be really difficult. And there are serious penalties if you screw it up. And I know that many of you think this thing is going to get just blown to smithereens. And if it's getting blown to smithereens, then these programs that are just not even paying attention and totally violating these rules are going to be the ones that end up winning in the end. And you're right. You're right. If that happens, that is going to happen. But we don't have a choice. Our AD is in on this from the ground floor, and that's the way it's going to be. But what if it sticks? What if it sticks? What if the punishments are suspended coaches, limitations to portal, huge fines, athletic director suspensions? They're going to be significantly pounded, man. Significantly pounded for what they did. So they're going to screw themselves if it all works the way it's intended. And if it doesn't, everybody who followed the rules, well, they're going to be a little screwed as well. However, can we just talk about this class for a second here? Well, we've got a lot of Buckeye fans panicking. The only thing we need to really worry about right now is the defensive line. That's it. The defensive line. I mean, we look around this class. There's dogs everywhere. Can we talk about a guy like Blaine Bradford for a second here? A 5-star from Louisiana with a brother at LSU, committed to Ohio State. Did you see the pictures of him on his official visit? This kid's face is lit up. I mean, he's so excited. Like, there is one thing that this strategy does net, and man, when it works, it really works. When you get a kid like that, a 5-star stud that everybody wants, he wants to be at Ohio State so bad, he's going to do it for a lot less money than anybody else is willing to pay him and shut it down early. And his face just beaming, and he's big and he's a monster. I think he's my favorite guy in the class. We look at the linebackers. You got a couple of Ohio dogs, 2 Ohio dog linemen, an Ohio dog running back. You got an underrated tight end from Florida that just is crazy about Ohio State. Another ridiculous wide receiver haul, including a guy in Chris Henry Jr. that anybody would trade their top guy for. It's just, there's dudes everywhere in this class. And you know, there's a lot of people, because when we follow recruiting every day, there's ebbs and flows. And it has felt like, okay, this feels like a bit of a downtick when we're starting to hear we're about to lose out on Xavier Griffin and Tyler Atkinson and Felix Ojo and all these guys we thought we had a shot at one point. But we got to take a step back and look at the macro, man. KHARY Wilder's a beast. Jordan Thomas is a beast. He's going to be a lockdown physical corner. Like, there are really good football players in this class. National championship caliber type players. And some booms coming. And a lot of announcements coming. Will the defensive line scratch the itch we all got? Maybe, maybe not. But right now, under the circumstances, I think the defending champs are doing a pretty damn good job following these rules that clearly some are not. And they're flexing their muscle. They really are. So, there. Are you guys happy? Are you happy? Apparently, I did a show after Luke Waffle, after he either silently committed or, you know, something happened. It was very clear. The day after he went out to USC and they weren't a contender, and that Monday after that OV, all the recruiting analysts just all of a sudden, it's USC. Like, okay, when that happens, it's not for clicks, man. Something happened. Something happened clearly. And I was a bit of a grumpy Gus. On the show. Now, here's the thing, guys. You can't tell me your favorite thing about the show is my passion, and then when it goes the opposite way, be like, no, man, screw that. You're supposed to pretend you're happy. That's not the way that works. That would be phony. That would be phony. All right, let's talk to the couple of our friends here. Number one, give me just a moment here. Booyah. Do you see this? National champion bag, Ohio State University, Wexner Medical Center. That is from Juckeye Jeremy Turner. Sent me this bag from the Ohio State camp. We appreciate Jeremy. He is a stud high school football player. And he balled out at that camp. And sent that bag to Juckeye Studios. Had it hand delivered. That's our guy, man. So shout out to Jeremy Turner, Juckeye of the week by far. He's the only one that sent me anything this week, by the way. So thanks to him. In addition, what else do we got to talk about? So here's the deal. If you are someone who watches the show every day, stick around. This is, inside baseball stuff. If you are someone who just watches once in a while, this is not for you. The show's over for you. I do appreciate you stopping by. It's been a great time with you, and I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Now it's just us. It's just the Juckeyes here. So here's the deal. A lot of you guys have been asking me to do more live shows, and the last couple that I did, I had a really nice internet signal. Things went good. So that's cool. Issue is I can't do them in the morning. Once in a blue moon, I can. So I did one Saturday night and it went really well, but nobody really showed up. And there's been a couple times when I've released my normal show at night and it's really not gotten any views at all. So if I were to do it, it would have to be in the evening, more live shows, I'm saying. And if I were to do it in the evening, I guess I'm just curious if people would show up. Now, there are a couple of things here about the live show thing. Like, number one, personally, I find it fun, but I don't think the finished product is as good. I think the people who are watching it live like it more, but the finished product, the 90% of people who aren't watching it live, I don't think it's as good because I can't put in things like pictures and little video clips. I can pull some up while I'm doing it, but without a producer, it's just hard because I'm trying to think about my notes, what I'm saying, and then trying to do this at the same time, pull up your comments, pull up a video. It's a pain in the butt. So the finished product, better when it's recorded. But is the overall experience better if it's live? I don't know. I'm wrestling with these two things. And again, I can only do it in like prime time, like I don't know if anybody wants to watch at that time, but in the past, my experiments have told me not really. So I guess what I'm asking is for some feedback on that from you guys that are still around here, because YouTube's great about telling us the statistics. And at this time of the show, like the only people here are either ones who fell asleep and Juck on Bucks was playing, or those of you who watch every day. Those are the ones who are around at the very end of the show. So those are my thoughts. Those are my questions. Looking for some feedback from you guys. If you have any, let me know. Did also want to read you this comment today. Warren and Tracy Davis. Warren says, "Hey bro, you're the leading commenter for the Buckeyes." Thank you, Warren. That's very nice of you to say. Please change your intro 100% to step up, just like we need the defensive line to step up this year. All right. So Warren gives me a compliment before he tells me your intro sucks, dude. Now, I didn't know it sucked. I'm sorry. I really didn't know it sucked. I thought it was like clever, but I'm not good at this stuff. The truth is I'm pretty computer illiterate. So I was thinking maybe there's somebody out there or several somebodies out there who would like to do an intro for the show. We've got a pretty big audience now. Maybe we make it a contest. Who can make the best Juck on Bucks intro? If you do, make the best Juck on Bucks intro, or if you're interested, email me and I will, give you access to the StreamYard or something, and you can play with clips from me. Maybe you would like to do clips from something else. I don't know. But if you can do it, obviously, I got a t-shirt for you and some other things, whatever it is you want, whatever. I give you $100. Who knows? Let's say that. All right. The winner gets $100 and a t-shirt. How about that for the new intro? But man, I'll tell you what, I'm picky. I am real picky. So if I don't choose you, don't get mad at me. Just forewarning you, I'm very, very picky. And you could say, well, that sucks. I mean, all right, it's not the best. It's the point behind it. The statement I'm making is something I'm so convicted about. That's why I like it. But if it looks like crap, then I don't want it to be there. So there we go. That's the contest. JuckOnBucks@gmail.com. Email me if you got some ideas or if you want to work on it. Schrodog says, I don't see how these recruits that are receiving big bags of money aren't causing a toxic locker room. There's no way USC is paying their starters the same amount they ended up paying Chicken Waffle. Just like we went through with the room there, man. Like, not if they're working under the same budget Ohio State's working under. If they're spending way over that budget, I'm sure there's some. But no, I mean, you're right. Maybe they've got one or two guys making that much. But dude, let's be honest. We look at this class, they're trying to bring in like 40 guys. It's very clear what they're trying to do there. They are cycling out like half their roster next year. There are dudes getting, you need to go hit the portal. You're out of here. Not only are they going to have this massive freshman class, I think they're going to have a huge portal class as well, because we're going to see people hit the floodgates. They're trying to turn over that entire roster. And, by the way, Ken Taco Hut says, I said I was, getting concerned about USC. Lincoln has compiled several talented teams in the past. Zero hardware to date, not worried. Ken, he's got twice the conference championships that Ryan Day has when you talk about zero hardware. 2 times the amount of conference championships. Is that not hardware? Or are you just talking about national championships? Because if you're just talking about national championships, we all know that there's only 3 active coaches that have won a national championship. So if that's the bar we're talking about, pretty high bar to say no hardware. Lincoln Riley is an accomplished coach, very accomplished. One of the top 20 coaches in the century so far. One of the top 20, like legitimately. And I get no pleasure saying that. I hate the guy. I did a survey about who do you hate more, Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley? 90% hated Brian Kelly more. I hate Lincoln Riley more. So I'm a big time Lincoln hater, Ken. Mark Williams, let's get him on record. I think these Buckeyes will break out this year, perhaps borderline All-American players. Number 1, Carnell Tate. He's expecting a huge season. Number 2, A8. And number 3, Eddie. I am with him on number 2 and number 3. I am just so hesitant to make a prediction about how it's going to go for the wide receiver room. I know the conventional wisdom is, okay, we are not going to let Jeremiah Smith beat us. We're going to do whatever it takes to stop that. Therefore, Carnell Tate is going to eat, right? Like that is the pardon me. That is the conventional wisdom. It almost seems too simplistic of a thing to it just seems too easy to be true, right? Like I'm always looking at things like, all right, well, we're all thinking that. So probably it's going to be something else. But I like where your mind's at with A8 and with Eddie. Both are going to be superstars. Jabriel Fisher on what will make him happy this year. Beat Ton, win the Big Ten, and I'll be content this season. And, I personally, conference championship's not something that's ever really on my mind anymore since the 4 team has been around. To me, can you get to the playoffs was a goal for me in the 4 team. Like that obviously is a successful season. Of course, winning the game. But now, like, what is the bar now that we got this bigger playoff? Just getting to the playoffs, my original thinking was that's not really such a huge accomplishment. Ohio State should get there every year, would have gotten there, like, 19 out of the last 20 years, right? But that was pre-conference expansion. We just talked about the schedule next year. My goodness, man. That's the hardest schedule we ever had. So getting to it in that schedule, significantly more difficult than in this schedule. So the goalposts are kind of going to change every year. But this year, with this schedule and this young quarterback, I say get to the playoffs, win at least 1 game in the playoffs, and win the game, and I'll be content heading into 2026 with now a veteran team. But I think the most important thing is, how do you finish that last half of the year? Are you looking like things are clicking? So we're looking forward to next year and all these young guys being like, oh man, this dude's getting better. That dude's getting better. Things are coming together. The defense is looking more cohesive. Julian's picking things up. It's going to be about the build. if you get to the end of the year and there is a significant build and we see a trajectory going up, you go into 2026. Now it looks like that is really the national championship favorite right there. Even though we flirted with that for a while there this year, it's never really felt that way to me. Not that I think anybody's significantly better. It's just not felt like I can say this team is the one that's better than the rest, because I feel like there are like 3 or 4 teams that are just kind of clustered at the top that, I could see them running the table. I could see them losing 2 games. So who knows? A really difficult year to pick a national champion, where last year was not. Last year, the Buckeyes were an easy pick, easy breezy, lemon squeezy, and they cashed. Cha-ching. All right. Appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget this evening, 8:30-ish for a live show for Aaron Thomas's announcement. Going to be a big one. If you don't get Aaron Thomas, you might end up with a 3-man class on the offensive line. You really might. So let's hope it's Aaron Thomas. Not sure when Drew Evers is making his announcement, but hopefully we can get number 4 tonight with a really good prospect. That would be 2 highly rated guys in Sam and Max, 2 really good looking prospects with high ceilings in Tucker Smith and Aaron Thomas. Anyway, appreciate you guys so much. Talk to you soon. Juck and Bucks out.